Never let people, especially your family and friends and your associates, move in with you.
You know, most of us have experienced a house guest who has overstayed their welcome.
No. But what happens when they flat out refuse to leave? That's what happened to one Orange County woman who has two on your side to get rid of the unwanted house guest. And here's investigator Christine Lazar.
You know, people think it's going to be really easy,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Most people would say put her stuff on the curb and lock the doors, but it's not that easy. Believe it or not, there are laws that protect unwanted house guests.
Legal rights have changed now. If there's an issue with tenants, and we'll talk about your guests becoming tenants later on, but if your guests become tenants, the courts usually favor your tenants, which were your guests to begin with.
No, let go of my microphone.
What is going on?
She's a house guest who has overstayed her welcome.
Is her name on the lease?
Her name
is not on the lease.
Living out of Wendy Bear's Irvine apartment for months, sleeping on her living room floor, refusing to leave.
And this is a true story from Orange County, where I'm at in Southern California.
I should leave. Yes, after all the things you've done to me.
But this isn't your apartment. Did you ever think that it would be this hard to get rid of an unwanted house guest?
Oh, absolutely not. If I did, I never would have invited her in.
Back in February, Wendy says an old neighbor named Anne Marie Lynch called her up and asked her if she could come stay with her for a few weeks when she moved back to California from Florida.
The poor lady did a favor to her friend, and it is a nightmare as we speak.
She told me that the people she was living with at the time were crazy and they were stealing her belongings, and she was desperate for a place to go.
Wendy says the deal was for Anne Marie to only stay a month, but when 4 weeks passed, she says she showed no signs of leaving.
You've worked decades to build equity in your home, but letting family or friends or peers and associates move in could derail your retirement or your equity, drain your savings, and even ruin your chance to sell your home when you are ready. In many states, just after 14 to 20 days or 30 days, a guest who is staying at your home as a courtesy by you can claim tenant rights even without paying a dime and put you in a heap of trouble. In the last few years, especially during the COVID, the last political change that we've had and we are going through, the current economic situations and the high cost of living has changed the way we live, has changed our attitudes. Did I say attitude? Yes, let me give an example. 10 years ago, if I would have done this video, I would have asked this question: why would you not let a friend or family come into your house if they are going through a difficulty? That was 10 years ago. Today, I'm doing this video, not by personal choice, but to give you information. I would ask the question, why would you let anybody, your friends or family or your peers, come and stay in your house? What's wrong with you? Home prices are very high. Rental prices are very high. Guess what is very high right now? The number of homeless people. That gives you an idea that there is a housing crisis going on, not amongst buyers and sellers, but amongst family, friends, and associates. A lot of people cannot afford to pay rent or the mortgage, and they are scrambling to stay in rooms. You probably heard the stories. Today there's a new trend, especially in Orange County. A single room with no kitchen use, no backyard use are going for $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month. There are people nationwide renting rooms today. They are renting garages today for up to $1,000, $1,500. People in the Bay Area working at Microsoft or working at companies like Google are living in garages.
She's the single mom with 2 kids, and that one-car garage, that's where she lives. You heard right. Nicole Jones and her children are forced to live in a garage right in the middle of one of America's wealthiest zip codes, Silicon Valley.
This is the garage.
Nicole, who's a bartender, pays $1,000 a month for the converted garage in San Mateo, California.
I know it's a garage, but this was nicer than everything that I had looked at. That was almost twice this price.
Nicole says she can no longer afford to live in the area, where the average rent tops $3,000 a month. Employees from companies like Apple and Google searching for housing have pushed rents into the stratosphere.
This is where we have come. So there's a big housing crisis, not in the means of buying and selling, but where people want to stay. And when people come to stay at your house today, with all the legal rights going on and with all the laws going on, you have to be cautious. And let's talk about that. When a guest comes in to move in with you and say, hey, I'm going to stay here for 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, or 10 days, and then they stay there after a month, they are still there. Guess what? Several things are happening. One, now they have established a tenant's right, so you cannot check them out. If your guest stays there and puts your house as their mailing address, they have created a tenant relationship, so you cannot evict them without calling cops, and even the cops will not move them out. You have to call an eviction attorney. Yes, even if it's your brother or your sister or your relatives, once they establish a tenant's rights, you are stuck with them. Not only that, it'll create havoc in your lifestyle. They'll be staying there. They'll be using your space, your living room, your kitchen, your garage. They'll be parking in your driveway. HOA may not like that. You might have to get HOA permits if you live in an HOA that has certain kind of situations. So when you let people live in today's world, certain things can happen and they become tenants, whether you want them to be tenants or not. Legally, they have a lot of rights. And now if you want to get them out, you have a big legal issue, a big financial issue, a big social issue with your family and friends. Your space and privacy has been violated and you are stuck. As you saw in that video, that lady is having a hard time now. And there is so many cases like this. We don't hear such cases because people don't talk about it. How would you like to tell your neighbor, hey, my brother moved in and I can't kick the out? You're not going to tell that to anybody. So all this happens in privacy, in confidentiality. But according to statistics, this is very common. So having guests become tenants, major issue. And one of the biggest issues where nice people who let people in come in and stay and then they're being taken advantage of, what they don't think about is, and when they become tenants and you have a bad relationship, like a divorce, you become enemies. The tenant and guest or the tenant and the owner become enemies. So let's say the tenant is staying there and he fell down or she fell down. Guess what? If the tenant damages the property next door, you are liable for it. If something happens to the tenant's car, which was parked in your driveway, and remember, this is your friend or family, they can be liable or you can be liable. And the worst part is, guess what? Your insurance policy does not cover the tenant's issues because when you got this insurance policy, you bought it as a homeowner. You did not buy it as a tenant. Unless you did, it may have some coverage. But if something happens, if they fall down, if they get injured and sue you for medical expenses, other expenses, liability, stress, or whatever, you are now screwed. Your 28-year-old son moves back in after a divorce, or your brother-in-law loses his job and asks to crash for a few weeks. Before you know it, they've taken over your space and your plans. Would you risk your retirement timeline, your equity, and your peace of mind just to avoid saying no? A lot of these people who want to move in will tell you it's temporary, but they have plans, ulterior motives to stay in for a while. They know the laws, they know the tenant's rights. So if you don't know those rights, you become the victim. Not only you become the victim, not only mentally, financially, physically, but it also affects your family, your kids, your dogs, and your other relationships. In fact, a client of mine couldn't list his house for 2 years because his son refused to leave and the son would not allow anybody to come in. He did not have a job. He was a mess. Nobody could go into his room and he always threw a fit when somebody tried to show the house. If your equity is tied up in your home, the last thing you need is an occupant blocking your exit strategy. I did not mention earlier that when a guest comes in and say, hey, can I stay with you for 5 days, 10 days, or 2 weeks, and I'll even help you pay utilities or groceries, and say, oh yeah, sure, come on in. That's very nice of you. Guess what? Once they start paying utilities, they start paying you water, they help paying you some groceries. Guess what? You just created a tenancy relationship. So now if he or she does not move out, you cannot just kick them out. First of all, they're not gonna go. And for you to get rid of them, you will have to get an attorney. In the court, even small contributions like utilities, repairs, rent can be used to claim tenant or even ownership interest. Yes, that is possible as well. Have you had a guest or a friend stay over and created an issue with you? Please let us know and share with us what happened or what rights you had or did not have, so I can learn and others who are watching this video can learn from it. Homeowners like you need to hear stories like these, so please share your stories. I would really appreciate it. Your home is a sacred place. Protect it. What's worth more to you, protecting your investments or avoiding an uncomfortable conversation with your friend or family or your associate. Do it up front. Some families say it's a tradition to house families and relatives and friends. But times have changed. We are after COVID. We're in a toxic political environment. Unemployment is high. Everything is expensive. Nobody can afford it. Young kids, young students cannot get jobs. They cannot survive at $20 an hour job, especially in Southern California. If you don't make 100 grand, you barely gonna eat bread and butter for dinner. So the times have changed. Your attitudes has to change. The way you think has to change. And I try not to be negative and say, hey, don't let your relative in, don't let your friends in. But today everything's different. I know two families and I know two brothers fighting over business. They are in courts and the two wives are fighting as well. And you hear this over and over. I'm sure you know friends and family who have issues within family, within their friends and family, fighting for things, fighting for business, fighting for rights, fighting for relationships. So this is very common and it's just getting worse. And I don't try to be negative, but I'm just trying to relay the information that I feel is very sad. But the time has come that you as a viewer understand your rights, especially your homeowner rights, because a lot of them are not aware of it. These are different times. Laws, cost, and risk don't work the same way they did. Don't let outdated expectations and beliefs and tradition bankrupt your future. If you are such a person, a nice person, and I'm sure you are, and when somebody asks you for a favor, here are some things you could do. If somebody asked you to come and stay with them, you may want to think about it and say, you know what, John, here's $500. Give them money for Airbnb or a hotel for 2 weeks and let them settle down. Help them out. Or find them an extended stay or an apartment for a month and see if they can settle down. You may want to start helping them with finding a job or networking or connect them with property management companies or other organizations where they will give them temporary housing. There are so many organizations, non-profit organizations, can help with temporary stay. So help them out with that. And if you are not able to help them monetarily, or if you are unable to find them housing, which is expensive right now and there's low inventory, we totally understand. The other things you could do is make sure you have some kind of written agreement between what their rights are and what their other rights are not. So they know upfront who's going to pay for the food, who's going to pay for utilities. Have a tenant agreement, which becomes a tenancy agreement. But at the same time, check with your accountant, check with your insurance policy, and see if you can add such a policy where your tenant's liability is covered. So check with your insurance and see if you can get insurance to be safe. The other thing you don't want your tenants to do, which I did not mention earlier, is that if they give you their address as your home address, they become tenants again. So tell them not to make your address as their mailing address, because that creates another tenancy relationship and you don't want that. So a lot of times things can be resolved before they even move in if you have specific written agreements or specific tenancy rights and non-rights. Maybe you have contact an attorney and have them draw a letter up front. It may cost you $300, $400, $1,000 up front, but if they do not move in and stay there for 6 months, like what happened to that lady in that video, it could cost you thousands and thousands, let alone $1,000. Your home is your sanctuary and your nest egg. Don't let guilt, culture, or pressure rob you of your equity, of your freedom, of your privacy, of your space, and most of all, your relationship with your family. Please make comments and share with us if you had such an experience or if you know somebody who had such an experience. I did a video a couple of weeks ago with actual examples of what happened and how it happened. So please check it out. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Patel.